Hello, good morning, and welcome to the second day of the Cassandra Conference. After a very enjoyable, very intense day yesterday, we're now here again. And today we're going to start off with one of the highlights for me of the whole conference, which is a session discussing the role of science embassies. And a science embassy, with regards to Cassandra, is simply an entity or an individual who has expertise, no matter what that expertise may be, and that they volunteer that expertise if and when it's required by a local community at a certain time. And what we try and do is guarantee that within 24 hours, any local community around the world can receive expert advice regarding that specific challenge that they may be facing in that moment. And also, the science embassy concept has been designed to ensure that scientific, technological, economic, political, social, medical, cultural knowledge is accessible to all communities. And that such a wealth of experience, instead of being confined to the halls of academic institutions and to peer-reviewed journals, is actually out there being able to be employed by the local communities, by the people who are facing real-time problems in real-life situations. I'm delighted to be joined today by Professor Dr. Phoebe Condori. I call her Phoebe, but she has such a CV that I could spend half an hour introducing her. Suffice to say that Phoebe is at the Athens University of Economics and Business and the University of Cambridge. She's the co-chair of the United Nations GSDR. She's the president of the World Council of Environmental Economists. She's the chair of the SDSN Global Climate Hub, and she's the director of
Euphoria.
AE4RI, IFORA. Yeah?
Euphoria, which is
Euphoria. I
the
apologize
Greek
for the
word,
lack of pronunciation there.
the Greek word for sustainability.
That's the one. That's the one, which I'm sure she will be mentioning as we go on. And as I said before, she has a curriculum that basically I could have spent half an hour reading it out, but I think we'll limit it to that. I'm also joined by Anthony Akpan, a very good friend of mine from Nigeria. He is the director of PAVE. PAVE were also actually represented in a session yesterday, and we're delighted to have him. I'm also joined by my dear friend and colleague Marie-Thérèse Laguerre. Marie-Thérèse Laguerre has been a director of the Veolia Foundation. She is now working for herself, and she's also a member of the Cassandra coordination team, as is Jackie Golden, who is a professor at the University of Western Cape, among many other things. And she's also the founder of EchoLink and is responsible for a program in South Africa called Diamonds on the Soles of Their Feet, which is one of the most beautiful projects I think I've ever come across in nearly 20 years of experience in this line of work. And then finally, we have as well Dalia Lakis, and we're delighted to have Dalia. Dalia is our first true local climate forum and science embassy contact in the Lebanon. She's a development and management specialist, and she's based in Beirut. So welcome to you all, and of course, welcome, very much so, welcome to the audience who are listening to us at this time. And I'll ask the first question to Phoebe, although this is going to be a conversation, so this is a warning for the audience. It's not that these people are rude people. I don't know them well enough to be able to judge on that. But what we've told them is that they can interrupt each other, and what they can do is have a conversation, which is what we're really looking for, and that they'll be expressing their own opinions. To get the ball rolling, and we will be giving also an opportunity to the audience in the last half hour of this session to actually you join into the conversation and ask questions. When I say join in the conversation, I do mean to ask a panelist or the panel as a whole questions, not to speak for 10 minutes about your own product. If you do that, Uncle Richard here is capable of cutting you off in midstream. So anyway, now that we are ready with the rules of the game, as it were, my first question to Phoebe, and then pass this on to other people in our panel as well, is, Phoebe, in your opinion, what are the key conditions that must be in place locally for scientific expertise to be effectively absorbed and acted upon? And when I say scientific expertise, I'm being very generic, because what I'm really talking about, expertise of any type, be it technological, economic, political, social, cultural, or whatever may be necessary in that moment.
Yes, thank you, Richard. This is a very crucial question. And as always, it's good to start from the real challenge. So we have local decision making, local decision makers facing urgent choices under time, data, and capacity constraints. And on the other half, we have traditional models that are scientifically robust, but often too slow or complex to be operational. Here, we need to find a way that allow us solutions to be conveyed and implemented to local geographies, but without downscaling or simplifying science to a degree that it loses its rigor. So it is, what we are looking for is not solutions that simplify science. Science is complex, and in order to have evidence-based policy making and implementation, you need to endorse science in its complexity and understands the system science, the interdisciplinarity that brings together earth sciences, infrastructural engineering solutions, socioeconomic financial solutions, and social solutions into an interaction that can create transformation pathways that are both evidence-based and so correct based on what we know today, based on our science, but at the same time implementable. So we don't want to simplify science. We don't want to be less rigorous, but we want to simplify access to science. So we need to separate scientific complexity from user complexity, maintain full state-of-the-art integrated systems modeling in the background, but expose only decision-relevant levers and outcomes to users. This means that we're going to use reduced form and surrogate models. We are going to run complex models offline and translate their results into fast, reliable approximations that compute in seconds, focus on decision-critical indicators, shift from full trajectories to key risks, thresholds, and welfare impacts. And importantly, emphasize trade-offs and synergies, co-benefits, and distributional effects. You need to get into the shoes of the decision maker that needs to speak to the politician that is going to actually enable the science-based, evidence-based solutions into implementation. And in order to enable that, they need to communicate to the general public and all other stakeholders the co-benefits and the distributional effects. So it is important to calculate that and communicate them. Also, make uncertainty operational, replace false precision with uncertainty ranges and stress tests. So you need to be honest as a scientist. Science cannot be exact because bringing all these systems, nature, economy, and society together and producing solution pathways is a complex and modeling exercise, meaning simplifying reality into its fundamentals and translating that fundamental model into solution pathways. So you need to say that we are facing uncertainty, both scientific uncertainty because we don't know everything, but also uncertainty that has to do with exogenous shocks and ambiguity with regards to how the future moves, and convey your recommendations in uncertainty ranges and stress tests. So support robust decisions under multiple futures, embed definitely participatory co-design, because this is what brings validation, but also co-ownership and co-shareholding of the solutions. So each and every step of your evidence-based simulations, science-based, evidence-based simulations should be communicate to a living lab of the local stakeholders in order to validate, but also in order to allow co-design, meaning integrating the stakeholders' visions, fears, needs into the solution pathways. And at the end of the day, create the business model that makes them shareholders. And until they become shareholders, nothing will ever be implemented. And this means that you will combine your modeling with local knowledge and stakeholders' priorities so that people see their future in your recommendations, and they see the benefits they directly derive from the future co-design with them. This accelerates convergence, improves legitimacy, and allows you to propose something that is actually implementable. So, yeah.
Of points, and I'm delighted to see that other panelists are already raising their hands. So you've obviously already caused an effect, which is very good. I actually would be, I'm far more extreme with regards to the question of co-ownership and co-design than I think you are. But you make some very good points there, and certainly nobody is asking any scientist or any form of expert to dumb down their knowledge. More than anything, it's the form of how to communicate that knowledge in an accessible manner, which is important, and which is unfortunately something which we don't usually train researchers to do until it's too late. But let me,
Richard, we don't
yeah,
even train, not just researchers, we don't even train local stakeholders to hear also. So
that's a very good
it
point, and we
takes
will
two
come.
to tango.
Well, we can come back to that later on and have a very public argument about that. That's excellent. Anthony, you raised your hand as Phoebe was speaking. You first,
Yes,
then Jackie, and then Daria.
yes. Thank you. I think can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, it's best to keep your microphone there because otherwise it's like you're going to need sign language.
Yeah. So I think it's important that science must appreciate indigenous knowledge. So whatever science is proposing in a particular locality must take into cognizance that indigenous knowledge exists. There's a way the community has been adapting to uncertainties, maybe climate change issues or some other issues that have been affecting the communities in the past. So that has to be taken into cognizance. And secondly, and more importantly, I think science communication, must be made simple and understandable to local communities, because most of the times these local people are not scientists, and you come with your complex science to solve a very simple issue. And you come with, they are not scientists, they don't understand all the chemical formulas and all of those. And they seem to be lost and can't seem to connect. So science communication is things that needs to be driven very well. So I just thought to add those into the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, Dahlia.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Richard. So yeah, I have a lot of reaction, but I will just try to summarize it. In Phoebe's intervention, I didn't hear much about, like, at the end, she was referring to local people or like communities, how they should learn how to hear or receive or listen. But also I would say that if we think from first part, the scientists should also listen to people, not only share information or share their findings. So I think communities, they have more knowledge and more experience, and they know their realities much more than scientists, and they are the one who should be on board in doing this science or research. So they are the one who could provide the real information and the real evidence that scientists need to conduct their research. The thing is that there is a gap, or like I feel the scientists are working in their academia and their research, and there is the communities. And there is a big need to create a bridge between these two. And I agree there is a responsibility of yesterday we were talking a lot about responsibility of organization. They don't talk to people, they don't engage. Yes, it's true, but also I agree with Phoebe that there is a responsibility from people, from citizens, to get engaged, to get involved in these processes. But also we should allow them, we should invite them to take part and to be sitting on the table and giving their opinion, not only as recipient of information, but as as a giver. Like they are the one who own these experiences and this knowledge, and they are giving it to us. So I wanted to highlight this, but also mention that in Lebanon, for example, there's still like the citizen science, where we engage citizens in producing evidence, in producing information, is still very small scale, and we don't use it much, while this should be really very well considered, because involving people is very important, and we cannot continue on producing evidence and science and research, and the reality of people is not changing. We're not contributing to the well-being of people. So this is what I wanted to share.
Okay, Jackie, I saw that you had your hand up before. Was there something that you wanted to say, Jackie? Put your microphone on, because otherwise we're going to have to go into sign language mode again.
My hand shot up, Phoebe. I think, in between, I think Phoebe's saying a lot with a lot of sense, but my hand shot up when Phoebe said we don't need to change the facts, that the facts are there, and what we need to do is just, kind of make them more accessible to people, which makes the assumption that the scientists has these facts. And I think, Dahlia, you very much are speaking to that same point, because I absolutely don't agree that the scientists have the facts. I think that's why the world's gone so wrong. We've got hundreds of charts, bar charts, and kind of facts, and nothing changes. And it's not just about communicating these facts to a passive kind of audience that somehow have not the ability to understand, and we've got to make them. So yeah, that's why my hand shot up,
So
Richard.
am I right in saying, Jackie, that you're questioning of the scientific, or what shall we say, expert knowledge? Because it doesn't have to be just science. It can be technology, it can be medicine, it can be social sciences, it can be economics. Phoebe, for example, is an economist. It's a difficult statement to make when you're saying that actually we have to question whether that knowledge is valid or not. No. Well, you're back on. You need to put your mic on. Very good.
certain aspects, I think this kind of understanding that science is something homogeneous and it's out there and all science, gets communicated in the same way. I think we've got to unpack that. We've got to disaggregate science. I mean, for instance, medical science, obviously there are advances in cardiology and all kinds of things that are absolutely indisputable. We're not going to start reinventing the wheel and saying, so yes, I think there are certain facts, but I think more and more we also are learning how many other layers are coming into these facts. I think it was, I can't remember yesterday who spoke about mental health. I think it was Victoria. We more and more understand the complexity that your body reacts in particular ways because of the way your brain's acting, because of emotions, because of, sort of more, in many ways, we are going back to the drawing board. Many scientists are going back to the drawing board and are becoming more humble about what they were very, very certain about. So I suppose I'm being ambivalent in the sense I'm saying, yes, one can believe in science, but yes, one needs to question science. So, but I do think there's a science of the people, the science that comes from the people, from the communities, which is the emphasis is always on communicating science from the top, but this communication of science from the bottom that Dalia, you were referring to, and Anthony to a certain extent, I think that's what's so critical. We've got to start listening to what people on the ground are saying. And Richard, that's what you're doing with Cassandra. I mean, that's what Cassandra's about. So, yeah.
Avi, you have your hand raised, and not surprisingly, Phoebe.
Is that science needs training. Science is not knowledge. And when I'm talking about science, I'm talking about the big spectrum. So we are talking about earth sciences, engineering sciences, information technology sciences, economic, financial, socioeconomic, behavioral sciences, policy sciences, health sciences, the whole spectrum. So science is not information. Science is not evidence. Science is how you analyze this, and it needs training. Now, the ability of local communities to interact with science is hugely important. When you say interact with science, it means exactly what I said before. Local communities, and this includes all stakeholders. So it includes the general public, the NGOs, the indigenous communities, the business sector being a company of one person, of SMEs or large companies, the whole business sector, the financiers, small, commercial, national, multilateral. It includes the policymakers, it includes the politicians. All of them across the spectrum need to be able to interact with guiding scientific knowledge that comes about through years and decades of taxpayers mainly paid work that produces significant advancements, technological, financial, socioeconomic, medical, and so on. The state we are in at the moment and our way of life has been defined by the advancement of science. And at the point that we are speaking now, scientific advancements and technological advancements are in such a pace that we don't know how to integrate into the labor force, into the people, into all the stakeholders that I referred before, in order to increase productivity with a focus on supporting human welfare. So when we say co-design with the stakeholders, I don't mean any of the structures that have been referred to by the comments that my friends here on the panel have made. Co-designing with science means that you have living labs. They could be hybrid, they could be physical, depending on the idiosyncratic characteristics of the community. And we will work with them continuously on all the different aspects. System science is a part of this, but the idea is that you have continuous interaction. And there are three main steps, and this is what IFORIA, the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation on Sustainability, a very big institute that I lead with more than 300 researchers now. This is what we have structured and developing continuously. A global commons that is completely open access, that is hybrid, that collects, first of all, answers with regards to where we are. So continuous measurement and monitoring with indicators that are co-designed and co-validated by the living labs that include the representatives from all the stakeholders in order to have an agreement, a consensus on where we are. And I can tell you that even in a small community, when you bring all the stakeholders together, it takes about 6 to a month to 1 year in order to get consensus on where we are, let alone the where we want to go. So once you have consensus on where we are, what we co-design again with the stakeholders is where the future vision. Where do you want to be? And by when? Given your national commitments, given commitments that are international, given commitments that are subnational, given your household, your individual commitment. Yeah.
Apologize, but I wanted to bring Marie-Therese here in on this part of the conversation. Hi, Marie-Therese. And I wanted to take issue, but I'm going to take issue with you because I'm a politician, so I'm above average intelligence when it comes to criticizing somebody in a subtle way. And so my comment is based on what Phoebe has said, but I'm asking it as a question to Marie-Therese. Is it not true that when scientists talk about citizen science, when they talk about living labs, which honestly, when I hear the term living labs, I immediately get indigestion. I cannot hear the word living labs after having eaten breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's just not correct. My problem, and I have coordinated European projects, and you see a lot of these exercises in European funded projects, for example, such as Horizon, where project proposals say, we will engage the community. And I think, yeah, your mother, you're going to engage the community. And my question, Marie-Therese, is surely instead of artificially creating citizen engagement, because within a project proposal or within an action, somebody wants to create a living lab, is it not true that, for example, in the communities that we work with, for example, in the Mediterranean region, in Africa, or in India, or wherever we are working and will be working in the future, that the citizens are already engaged. The local activists already exist. There's no need for the scientists to create an artificial lab, living lab, because if you're already working with local activists who are in tune with their community because they're from there, surely they are of more value to the science themselves. And I'll give you the chance to answer that, Phoebe. But first of all, let me put that question to Marie-Therese.
Yeah, I truly get what you are saying, Richard, and it's absolutely true. It's a question of death or life for them. They are not waiting for other people to do for them. They have to do if they want to survive in their environment. So the knowledge that they have gained by doing with their own just like small capacity can be just like leverage with the science coming from abroad, but at the basement, they are not looking or waiting to act. It's a kind of human necessity to act when you are in a place where it's tough to live. We heard about Kibera just like earlier. Kiberian people can't wait for the outside to bring them at the minimum to survive in that very continuous environment, but they are maybe more waiting for people to leverage what they could do on the basement of what are their knowledge, and just like bring additionally to that. It can't be it shouldn't be kind of a laboratory for us. I think like the Western countries, it can't be a laboratory. We have to come and just like from my opinion, and put just like leverage of knowledge. And from the company I was working with, I think that it was the great asset was to come in the situation, in the critical situation, bring the material, bring the knowledge, bring the capabilities, and leave it there with people that were augmented from the knowledge that they brought from France or for whatever part of the world we were. So I think that it was more kind of bringing more than trying to set up something from scratch. I don't believe in this, just like putting something from scratch doesn't exist. And I think that it's kind of a just like not very fair to the people who have been there forever.
Phoebe is somebody whose work, and she knows that I admire a lot. And Phoebe has actually been responsible for advancing, in fact, partly the work that I started in Eurecat, we continued here at Eurecat, based on citizen engagement, based on also looking at the economic aspects, have come as a result of a lot of Phoebe's work. I first heard Phoebe talking back in the day at a Water Europe conference, when I think I still had hair. No, that's a joke. I haven't had hair for 30 years. But anyway, I like to make that impression in public. But Phoebe has said something now, which a lot of people say, and I know that she's an advocate for it, and I understand what she's saying. And she talks about co-ownership. And that aspect worries me a little bit, because who are we to own an action within a local community that's suffering those challenges? Surely the activists who are already there should be the owners, and the scientists and the experts who, as Phoebe has very rightly said, are normally, their expertise is normally paid for by public money anyway. Yeah, surely that knowledge should be at the service of the community, but not leading it. That's just a point I'm making, and I should be making points because I'm the moderator and I forgot for a moment what my role was here. So let me pass over to Dalia, who had her hand up, then Anthony, and then we'll go back to Phoebe. Dalia.
Yes, thank you, Richard. It's a great discussion. So just wanted like to share one experience in my context, which is Lebanon, where science is not always fact or reality or based on objective facts that everybody agrees on. Because these scientists are basically linked to consultancies, funding, political interest, or specific agendas always. So, for example, in Lebanon, we had a big debate about the creation of a new dam which is Bisri Dam, and all official studies and scientists supported this project, that was preliminary funded by World Bank. But then activists and people on the ground, as you were mentioning, Richard, they were challenging this decision and these studies, and they shared other scientific data related to seismic risk, geology, climate change, and other topics related to this dam. And they counter this decision of doing creating this dam in Lebanon, and then at the end the pressure made the World Bank cancel this project. So just wanted to say that we cannot, like, realities are different in different places of the world, and in Lebanon a lot of time we don't have the same result from the same research. Different political parties might say different scientific information on the same project. So just wanted to highlight this reality that unfortunately this might happen in some localities. And yeah, thank you.
No, thank you very much. Let's go first of all next to Anthony.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the issue of co-ownership or citizen engagement is basically a donor requirement. Who is funding that? You see that most of those requirements are donor driven, that you need to prove that you are working with the communities, you have the approval of the communities and all of those. I just shared recently, 2 days ago, we're invited by the World Bank. The World Bank is currently conducting a consultation amongst stakeholders, including civil society, in the process of developing the next Nigerian country strategy paper, 2026 to 2032. So it's donor driven most of the time, because when somebody is funding your proposal, and they want to see that you have spoken with the communities, or you have the communities buy in, and there. So most of the time, that component is donor driven. You need to show evidence that the communities are with you, they've given their nod, they are participating, and more so when the donor support elapses, there's hope for sustainability, that the community themselves now will carry out the project so that it continues in future. So from my experience personally, I see it as a donor-driven requirement in most of the project proposals we have submitted to donors. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anthony. Jackie. Jackie, the microphone.
I disagree with you, Richard. I think co-ownership is absolutely essential. I think it's high time that the research community, be they academics, government, whoever is looking into kind of communities, need to take, it's almost like a moral obligation. They have to co-own. They have to take responsibility. Ownership means taking responsibility. So it's not just the communities that take responsibility. Co-ownership is essential. It's high time, and I do apologize to the audience that I become passionate about this. I've been working for perhaps too long in communities.
Jackie, when you become passionate, that's when we get more audience. Go for it.
Okay. Is that I think we use communities, it tends to be the global north, but not only the global north, and I don't like these terms too much. It also happens in the south. Academia, research, scientists have huge funds. They get paid a lot. They get paid to go to conferences, to talk about communities. They get paid to go to write papers, to tell everybody about what they're finding in these communities. And they give a pittance of what they earn goes to the actual communities. I've worked really, I know the budgets at our university, particularly they're huge budgets that'll go maybe to drilling a borehole or to building a dam, but tiny little budgets and tiny time frames go to communities. And I think this is a wicked problem. And I think we need to take much more responsibility, much more moral kind of, we implicate it morally. And I think it's high time, and that's why I back Richard 100%, because Richard is turning this around. He's trying in his way to do things differently. And it's high time we all got off our, really started doing things differently. It's a very unequal and unjust platform that we're working on, or reality.
I mean, not surprisingly, I didn't agree with your first part of your intervention, but agreed completely with your last part of your intervention. Phoebe.
Yes, cornership is not cornership between the scientists and the stakeholders. It's co-ownership of the local community, all the stakeholders. Scientists are advisors. Co-ownership is between those that will be called to implement. So that is the first point. Without ownership, you have no responsibility, and without responsibility and accountability, you cannot implement. And we want implementation. So this is the first point. The second point about different views about science and political manipulation of science, that's just bad science. We can talk about bad science, but I think here we are referring to good science. A scientist is somebody who brings knowledge into analytical function that provides solutions, and these solutions are there to support human welfare in the different aspects of human welfare that exist. Third, budgets. Science, except from technology development, which is a product of science, is severely underpaid. Severely underpaid. Especially if you compare how much science has produced that supported the current state of affairs. They are not perfect, but for those who indulge history, they have achieved significant advancements for human welfare. Now, local stakeholders have huge budgets. They are distributed in the wrong way, because a local stakeholder has the government budget, has the municipality budget, has the community budget. There are huge budgets, national, multinational. Local stakeholders are also businesses. They have huge budgets. So it's about the distribution of that huge capacity that is totally unfair. And the result of this, and this unfairness results not because they have followed science, but because they have not followed science. And finally, on the changing era of budget allocation, nowadays it is almost impossible and to win any grant, and these are very competitive grants within and outside different regions of the world, without allocating the most significant part of it to the local stakeholders. I can bring in examples. For example, from European Horizon projects, where we have 30 million projects to co-design the financial pathways for the implementation of the European Green Deal. And of these 30 million, only 7 goes to the actual science, and the rest of it goes to the regions within Europe, 150 regions, to enable them to co-design with us. So a lot of things are changing, a lot of things are happening, and they are happening towards the direction you are indicating, Richard. Living Labs is a very nice quote. It's a very nice title, but I'll stop here so that others can speak.
We could talk about living labs, you and I, for a long time. But let me pass the word to you've brought up something which is very, very important as well, which is the financial aspects of it. But let me go first of all to Marie-Thérèse, and then afterwards to Dahlia, then it was Anthony, and I think Jackie also has something to say as well. In fact, I'm sure Jackie has something to say as well. So Marie-Thérèse first.
It's a passionate discussion, but absolutely insightful discussion. And I'd just like to come back to what I've said just a little bit previously about co-ownership. Where I would join Jackie in the thinking is just like the co-ownership is not just like being kind of responsible of only. It's kind of being responsible of the fact that knowledge is a kind of human value. You have to share it. It cannot stay in just like your own head and brain, and it has values when it's shared. And it might not diminish yourself, you know. It won't take it. You won't take it out of your brain. It stays in your brain, and you share it, and it just like add to someone else's brains. So I think that it's what I do fully agree with. The scientist has to kind of know that they have their own mission for the rest of the humanity, because they were kind of given that brain that can think louder than others maybe, and they can just like bring things that the other part of the humanity can't do. So for me, the co-ownership is how do we take the responsibility as scientists to bring what we know at a large scale, and people from there add to their own knowledge and leverage. I think that it's the only way that we could just like achieve more, bring more kind of coordination in just like developing people's lives and make it better. Otherwise, let's be honest, when people can make it in their own countries, they will find the way to go to another country. No one wants to leave his country. Believe me, people like to live within their community. When people are taking their family, their kids, their wife, and travel overseas, knowing that they will die, they're not stupid people. They know that they can die traveling overseas in just like crazy boats. But when you have no other choice, believe me, you do it. And it's not because you love less your family that you put them in such a danger. It's because you think that from where you are, the danger is higher than traveling overseas. That was just like what I thought about it.
Again, like everybody in this debate, you made a very important point there. Very, very important point as well. And I also enjoyed Phoebe's definition of co-design and co-ownership, more than anything, co-ownership. Then I understood, Phoebe, when you were saying about when you defined clearly what you believe was co-ownership. Then suddenly I went, okay, just as long as you don't call it living labs, I'm fine with that definition. Anthony, you had your hand raised, then Dahlia, and then I'm going to pass the word to Jackie as well. Anthony?
Yes, thank you again. I think Phoebe piqued my attention when she talked about the budget distribution. You know, budget distribution, like picking from examples from here, you know, we don't do community-based budgeting to factor in the direct needs of the community. You know, Nigeria is a federation, and you have subnationals that do state budget for the states. So even at that, there's no mechanism to monitor the budget. The budget is not transparent. The people don't even have access to the budget to know what the government is planning for a particular community or not planning for a particular community. So there's no transparency. So it's beginning now that we have the open government initiative that some countries and some states, and Nigeria have signed up to that initiative. But yes, the federal government has a portal where you can see the national budget, but some of the states have not signed on to that. But even at that, those budgets allocated to those ministries, some of them at the end of the year are not released by the Federal Minister of Finance to those agencies to carry out those functions. So if we have more of community-based budgeting at the subnational level to capture the direct needs of the communities, and there's a full-up transparent process to follow up through the implementation. If I live in this community, I know that in the budget, there should be a borehole sited at so place. At the end of the year, if I don't see that borehole, then I can go back and say, in the budget, there was supposed to be a borehole here. So why is the borehole not there? Then question will be raised. So I think the discussion has thrown up the need for more transparent budgeting and allocation system. Thank you very much.
I want to go back to this this question about financing and budgeting in a moment, but I just wanted to pass the word to Dalia because she had a comment, and Jackie also indicated to me that she had a comment.
Yeah, actually, I also wanted to talk about this issue about funding and distribution, because I agree with Phoebe that there's a lot of money and budget. Now, not anymore, but I mean, there were a lot of funding and budget going to implementation of project. And I worked in this field, in the development and humanitarian field, for 20 years. And I've seen throughout the years that, yes, very little, very small impact was realized out of this budget and out of these projects. But also here to confirm that there is this big gap between, science and knowledge and what people do, because they are busy, they have money to spend, they have donor agenda to implement. So instead of optimizing, these projects and funding that have been invested in the field by using evidence, facts, science, what should be done in a sustainable manner in communities. Yes, I agree that there was a lot of waste of budget that were not used in a proper way. And I was really very surprised. I was doing a research on water justice in one of the areas in the Bekaa in Lebanon to discover, for example, very basic information or knowledge on how to purify water, that one family was putting water, like dirty water, in a plastic bottle in the sun, thinking that this way they will purify water and it will be potable. So I'm just giving this example to show that people, like when we say, yeah, it's available, science is available, information is available. No, at the very local level, there is a huge gap between basic information, basic knowledge, and where people are and what do they know. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Jackie, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So I absolutely don't agree with Phoebe. I don't know the Horizon project you were talking about, Phoebe, but all the projects, and for instance, Diamonds on the Soles of Their Feet started in 2019. I can tell you that the communities that I've been working with are as poor today as they were when the project started. Nothing has gone into really building capacity and changing the lives of the people that we've been working with since 2019, who did all the hard work and have got all the knowledge and the expertise. So I believe that we need to have a new paradigm that we use, and I include myself because I am a researcher at the university, we use communities for our living. They keep us alive. We write about them, we research them. I believe to a certain extent that if people were not poor, a lot of us would be out of work. So I think there is something that we are really, we keep these communities, at worst, we keep them poor, but we certainly don't improve their capacity. They still don't have the money to go from one school to another, for instance, in the projects that I'm working for. They don't have money to give people refreshments when they want to have a meeting at a community hall. That's not big money, it's little money. So I believe that 15% of all budgets that we have should go unconditionally to the communities that we are working with, so that when we leave, when the project ends, that 15% is in the community and they can use it to build and to sustain themselves, keep the projects going, build their capacity. We don't have that. And just one last thing, Phoebe, for instance, recently we put in a proposal for a project on agroforestry. We were told by the funders, great, you can do this project, but we're not funding the trees. So no one was funding the actual material planting of the trees. The community had to find that money themselves to plant the trees. So there are all kinds of conditions that funders put on where money can go and where money can't go. And it's often unjust and unilaterally decided and seems to me quite illogical in many ways.
Phoebe.
Yeah, okay. First of all, community-based budgeting is needed. It's needed. So what we are proposing at the Global Sustainable Development Report of the UN, I'm assigned by the UN Secretary as the chief scientist of this, is a global commons where the data, the models, the continuous assessment and monitoring, the design, the co-design of the pathways, all of it becomes open access together with the portfolios of investments and transformations that can be financed and implemented. All of it becomes open access, not because we believe that all of this needs to be in the minds of each and every stakeholder. I started by the need of not simplifying the rigor of science, but simplify the way you communicate in order to make it actionable. So it is important to understand that if you have open access data, models, and scientific recommendations, you can co-design better in living labs or whatever, Richard's labs or Cassandra's labs. And this does not mean that you have a lab, right? It's the whole community that is there and can interact. Why is that important? Because transparency becomes easy, because it does not allow manipulation of results. It does not allow political interventions. It does not allow misinformation. It does not allow weird people coming in and saying, no, this is not what we know. This is not the evidence that we have. So it is important to embed and understand science, embed science in the community in a way to increase transparency and in a way to silence miscommunication and manipulation of information, of evidence for the benefit of the strong. Science is power. It is real power, it is transparency, and that's why open science is important, and that's why open science that is interacting continuously with the stakeholders who own the solutions and who also own the responsibility for accountability. I want to close by saying, I don't know how many minutes are there, and I know Richard has to summarize all of this. But
No. We've got plenty of time. Don't worry.
Okay, so I just want to say that since we launched the SDGs, we have managed to embed them in policy frameworks around almost 190 countries across the world, and we have managed to achieve implementation 20%. This is huge. The SDGs are a brilliant scientific framework, but they are very complicated, complex, and they need time to be transposed into mirroring policies and frameworks and financial structure, and at the same time, a lot of time to be embedded in local communities, in municipalities, in cities, in networks and all that. So I think a lot of progress has been made. There are definitely huge failures, but there are also huge situations where we have successes, where we have the local communities much improved. And at the end of the day, please keep note of the fact that we have the data, the science, the technology, the policy frameworks. We even have the financial resources. 30 trillion every year is produced and sitting in savings accounts looking for interesting investments to be invested in. Now, what is the problem? Why this 30 trillion does not go to the communities directly? Why? Is it because the businessmen cannot see the opportunities or they don't want to help local communities and at the same time have a thriving business where the opportunity is, and lots of this opportunity sit in the global south? Why is it not happening? Because these projects are not de-risked. So we need to focus not just on pouring money on a local community. We have to empower this local community to use this money correctly. What does this mean? It means you need to de-risk the project. What are the risks of projects? A risk is war. A risk is default of the country, fiscal default of the country. A risk is the level of consumption, corruption. A risk is obviously not having the skills in the labor force to support a particular investment. All these are risks which we need to look at them one by one and bring money to the local community to invest in hedging against this risk. Invest in making your institutions stronger in order to reduce corruption and increase transparency. Invest in education so that you have the labor force that can support the project you want to bring in. And in that project, you do not only expect multilateral funding or government funding or national funding. You also expect to attract the private funding, which, as I said before, is the most funding across the world. All the public funding across the world is not enough to create the transformations that we need in order to have sustainable, flourishing communities. We need to attract private funding. Private funding, 30 trillion every year sitting in savings, just because all these lovely projects that we have in our mind are not de-risked. Let's invest in de-risking. Let's invest in creating the skills in our labor force, in reducing corruption, in making institutions strong and transparent, and let's work at a higher level, UN level. I don't know when will be in the next years. We are talking about the coalition of the willing. We are talking about the coalition of the able and all that. But let's also work on restructuring global financial architecture in a way that can attract blended finance to de-risk projects, to the communities, to the cities, to the countries that need it more. This will create more growth and more ability and higher ability to support human welfare where is mostly needed, what we call the global south. It can be done, but it needs us to be open and minded about what the local communities really need. Why is the money not?
And surely, Phoebe, the only way to know what the local communities really need is to already engage with a lot of our local climate forums, which is the generic name that we give to a very heterogeneous group of activities throughout Africa and India and what have you. Surely that knowledge is there. I mean, for example, people such as Anthony have many, many years of experience working on the ground. One of the things that you said is very important is corruption. I mean, when I was working for the UN, when I was at UNEP, when I was in Nairobi, I was going often to Kibera. That's how I met Brandon Okoth, who was in the introduction today. And billions have been spent on Kibera, and you cannot see the evidence of one penny having been spent there. And that is corruption. It is also the fact that supranational agencies in general are absolutely incapable of getting over the national government obstacle and getting that money directly to those local communities. Talking about this, Phoebe Kondori, for the audience, is probably one of the finest and certainly one of the most highly recognized economists in the world, and we're really privileged to have her with us. And Marie-Thérèse as well is, I pick my panel as well. Marie-Thérèse Leguer as well has also been a director of the Veolia Foundation. So she's coming from the private sector, and I saw that her hand is up. So let me pass over to Marie-Thérèse on what this fascinating issue, and then I will pass to Dalia. Marie-Thérèse,
Thank you.
can I just say as well, Scott, sorry, Marie-Thérèse, apologies, that I can just remind the audience as well that if you have a question, not a speech, but if you do have a question, please raise your hand and we can let you ask your question directly to the panel or to a specific panelist. Okay, so remember that you can participate. All you need to do is raise your hand, and I'm looking at this computer on my right, and I can see your hand raised. Okay, so Marie-Thérèse.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. And I just would like to go on a triangulation of what Phoebe has said. Like, the money is there, the needs are there, and obviously the technology, the knowledge is there. Why are there still remaining poor people? Because it might be at the service of certain. I'm so happy to have my free voice right now. What I do think is the tech and the new tech that are here, and you were talking about the risking just like project. This is a crazy thing when you think about it. We can absolutely, we should, as a society, as a global society, accept that for some part of the world, we will have risk. At a certain point, if we want to have a base levelment of for building just like something bigger or better, we have to take the risk all together. And yes, you have just like all the problem of governance and so on and so forth. But the technology that is coming, the AI that is coming, will allow us to just like follow every single penny. If we want it, we can do it. Have we got the willingness to do it? I think that it's the point. If we want to follow each penny that we are putting in the local community and being sure that it is used for the right purpose, we can definitely do it. It's a question of willingness. And because I used to be on that private sector, on kind of, I would say, the pro bono project, and where we would go and just like deliver a service that was needed for the community. There's one point that I think that I just like, I've seen again and again, it's the maintenance things. The maintenance aspect of what you are living there is absolutely critical. For some region of the world, it's because we don't have the kind of I would say it's not even a structure, but it's kind of a history of maintaining things. You would put it there, and people would just like let it die of a nice die, I would say. But we have to bring the culture of maintenance for everything that you are implementing, and you have to leave the money for the people to be able to do that. If you don't have the money to replace things, how do you just like maintain your thing? And yes, afterward, people are putting a lot of money in just like the project in the communities. They go 2 years after, they come and say, "Oh, everything has broken down." Yeah, for sure, they needed to replace this and this and this, and there was no money for that. So yeah, things are broken. It's just like so stupid that the way it looks. So yeah, the money is there, the needs are there, the technology is there. Please find the willingness to do it.
I do enjoy listening to a liberated Marie-Therese. Daria,
Yes.
I'll pass to you, and then afterwards we do have a question from the audience from
Yeah.
Pradeep Mahapatra. So Daria, you first.
Yeah, actually, Marie-Therese, thank you, because I will start where you finish. What we still need is to stop the war and stability. So in order to reduce this risk and to build on continuity, like throughout the years, on building systems that are solid, on building economies, on building national capacity, we need stability and security, which, like, if I think of Lebanon, I'm really sorry. And I've been working with the UN in Lebanon, and you can quote me, I don't care. This big UN agency had spent billions and trillions of dollars on a project to support governance and state organization and ministries to be able to mitigate this risk and to be able to build, the country and the sectors, etc., etc. So the one to blame, okay, of course, like I say it again, citizens and communities, they have responsibility. They should really be empowered and take action, and but also government and agencies that supported this government throughout, I don't know, 30 and 40 years with no result, and we still ranked like the highest country in corruption, for example. Like, also these should be held accountable, and the UN agency who spent all this money with no result also should be accountable. So I think what's missing, Marie-Therese, is stability, is medium, long-term investment, not only humanitarian fund and emergency fund that only look at the direct reaction and direct intervention and cannot fund long-term project, 10 years project that can build and mentor and see the country progressing. This is what's missing from my point of view.
Thanks very much. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. And we do have a question from the audience. So can I ask Pradeep Mahapatra, who I presume is from India, and I hope I haven't got the country wrong there. I am right. Thank God for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you so much,
Pradeep,
Richard.
your question.
Yeah, is it audible?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you so much. And I am seeing this is Professor Jacqueline, and she's one of the veteran in the water sector, and it's good to listen from her. And I am enjoying all these discussions, and the galaxy of panelists are here to have a good discussion and good reflection. And I agree on certain points, and also I disagree also few points. And it's why I agree is maybe financing. That's once upon a time it was not financing, but it's now money is right now it is plenty of money is available, but countries are not able to spend it because of trustworthiness, because of there is no accountability, because of there is no strategic direction to spend it. Otherwise, the way it is, this Professor Khanduri talked about it's not 20%, it's less than 20%. SDG is globally it is available. Its accomplishment is only less than 20%. I think it's 17% plus. Because of this money is available and we are not able to spend it either, or there is no strategic planning, or there is no good strategic framework is there, and framework is there, good personnel is not there. If personnel is there, data is not there, and it's not to compile or to come forward with these specific issues. This is one. Second thing that is coming to, I cannot give this, this, I accuse any country or anybody, but I can say it is a systemic error. There is, this is the systemic error, because globe is talking about this is, globe is talking about globalization, and it's globalization. It's in a neither in media nor it is now to its beginning, but it is SDG 17 plus. That means we all are agreed to undertake certain responsibility. This is one. But responsibility is there, but accountability. What about the accountability? Accountability is also very less. So that money comes, and who is spending for what purpose? There is no one. And once upon a time in India also, once upon a time it was also discussed in Parliament, and it's out of 100%, only 15% is reaching to the last mile. Now everything is digitized. Everything is DBT, direct benefit, direct cash transport. Everything is, this is even chai wala, it's a tea stall, vendor, vegetable vendor, all are paying this is UPI. And because of this, is whatever small money, even if 100 rupees, less than 100 rupees, now it is being paid through account and digitization. Because this is why? Because I told it's systemic. Once its system makes very vibrant, it may be difficult, but it's the way it has started. It is after 2014. It was a hue and cry. It cannot work. It will be it will be like this. It will be Haraperi. It will be Bishopupet. Now everything is accountable. Everything
Okay,
is,
thank you, Pradeep. I mean,
yeah.
thank you
So
for the
it's a
question.
strategic.
I'm
No,
not quite sure
I'm
what the
just
question
closing.
was, but you did make a
Question
very
is,
important point.
question is to make the system very community friendly. Make the system community friendly. Go to the people, stay with the people, do with the people, eat with the people, plan with the people, and ultimately things will be done, and we together have done it. That has to be well designed, the way we discussed about the community and community resilience or community asset or community infrastructure, whatever it is. Thank you so much, and I'll be part of it again if necessary.
Thank you, Pradeep, and thank you for giving us the view from India, which is a country that we are now working in, and indeed Pradeep is involved in that. Phoebe, you have your hand up.
I wanted to say a few things very quickly, and I appreciate very much the intervention from India, from the audience. Indeed, we have many corruption, inefficiency, failures, and we need to actually invest in ways that allow us to reduce these instances. And let me say that this is not relevant only for the global south, it's also relevant for the global north. The taxpayers' money is being given out for specific transformational huge projects, and less than 50% go actually on the ground to achieve the completion of this transformation. So this is crucial. And this is what I mean by de-risking. De-risking means identifying the risks of failure at the different layers, at the international, global, national, subnational, community level, and invest there into creating hedging structures to reduce this risk, the risk of inefficiency, the risk of corruption that leads to failure. This is de-risking, and I agree with Maria Teresa. Now that we have data, geospatial, Internet of Things data, in situ data, socioeconomic data across the world, and the help of the analytical skills and fastness of AI, it will be much more difficult to manipulate what is happening on the ground. We will be able to have more transparency and more direct accountability. So I really believe that, but I also want to make one comment about war. This is crucial. I think it's important in our days. I think it's important to refer to it continuously. So war and unsustainability reinforce one another. Conflict destroys the foundation of sustainable development, while unsustainable systems sow the seeds of future conflict. So it is crucially important in this era where the global connectivity is so intense that we understand that it's only through geopolitical de-escalation that we will be able to survive. It is important to understand that when the UN was launched, we were coming out of a huge war, but we were less connected. Our value chains were less connected. Now we are so connected that we don't have in inverted comma, we don't have the luxury of war. It can be totally destructive for everybody. And so it is important to put this geopolitical pressure and this dysfunctioning of the global communities that we created since the end of Second World War into center page and say we need to collaborate, because otherwise it will be to the detriment of all of us. We need to recognize that we are so interlinked, and the only way to get into a sustainable future, a future that does not only it does not mean that the rich will give to the poor donations. It means that everybody will be investing in everybody, so that the donors' money become the foundation for sustainable structures. So we don't wait for the next donor money to invest in repairing. We create a business model with the donor money that will allow us to flourish. And this will mean that we'll be able to repair and invest more and more and more. We need to get much more clever than we were in the past. And this means being able to grasp our future and use whatever money comes to our community in order to develop that is something sustainable, not just sustainable environmentally, not just social cohesion, but also business sustainability, financial sustainability, and it can be done. It can be
And
done.
that stability, and I mean, I agree with you 100%. And believe me, nobody hopes that what you have expressed now happens than I. I've been a political scientist since, well, I started studying political science in 1979, before any of you were born. And since that time, since 1979, I can't think of any year or period of time that has been so unpredictable as now. And one of the great crises we have, one of the great geopolitical crises that we have is the unpredictability of events, especially with regards to certain characters whose names I obviously don't even have to mention. And it's that lack of predictability that could affect the future, not only of the work of the local communities and of many, many thousands of programs and actions such as Cassandra that exist in the world, but also the achievements of the SDGs, which Phoebe herself is actually responsible, I believe, for reporting on in the period between 2025 2027. Believe me, I've got some input for you there, Phoebe. What I would say, and I apologize to Dahlia because I have to wrap up and I'm getting the messages saying, Richard, wrap up. So what I'm saying is that I hope that when Phoebe talks about de-risking, that we can first of all guarantee stability and continuity and transparency, which apparently are three things which are lacking, so much so that we lose the greatest thing of all, which is trust. When trust is lost, then we truly have an almost impossible job to recuperate the support of the population to create local consensus and therefore, as a result, provincial, regional, national, and supranational consensus. If we don't have that, I mean, for example, this morning, the US and Russia have almost stated very clearly that they're not going to re-sign a nuclear arms deal. And these things that are happening in the world of Donald Trump and in the world of, unfortunately, people such as Nigel Farage, because it's not just an American phenomenon, but these situations that are happening are affecting the climate. They are creating the instability, which means that the work of so many organizations, such as ourselves, will have to face and will have to suffer. Somebody very, very intelligent said to me a long time ago when I was still young and innocent, that a wise man is somebody who knows nothing but surrounds himself by people who do know a lot. And I'm a very wise man because today in this debate, I have surrounded myself with exceptional people who have had something fascinating to say, each and every one of them, and who do know a lot more than I do. And I just want to thank you. So I want to thank you, Dahlia Lakis. I want to thank Jackie Goldin. I want to thank Anthony Akpan. I want to thank a liberated Marie-Therese Laguerre. And I want to thank Phoebe Condori for making the time, all of you, because I know all of you have really tight agendas. But believe me, this hour and a half, I knew that this was going to be one of the highlights of the conference, and I was not disappointed. It's been marvelous to listen to you. I only actually had to ask only one question, yeah, at the beginning. And then basically you just took it from there. And that for me is what is the perfect panel. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of our listeners. My apologies to people who we haven't been able to have enough time for you to ask your questions. But I will invite you to join the next section, which will be at 2 o'clock. And that will be about how science and how expertise can actually be communicated and how experts can learn right from the beginning of their academic careers or indeed their professional careers how to communicate to the general public. That will be a conversation that will be had at 2 o'clock. Until then, thank you very much to everybody. And once again, thank you very much to the panelists.